but they were scattered across the face of the earth, each one with its own beats, and each one with its own rhythm. As the dry bones are being revived, the beat begins again at the heart of the tribe.
Hello, welcome to Heart of the Tribe. My name is Chelle Wagner. So glad to have you here with us today. Wow, this is going to be a really interesting presentation. I'm really looking forward to it myself. It's on the heart of Benjamin and the digestive system. You know, this has just been so interesting as we've gone through the tribes and lined it up with what our physical body and the different systems and how that must work together and how they must work together for us to be a healthy, functioning body. And, you know, in Benjamin, there are so many hints and clues to what this looks like. The importance of unity is really stressed within this tribe, and what happens when we're not in unity and the destruction that comes. And so we're really looking forward to bringing this information to you today, and we hope that it is a blessing in your life. You know, Lee and I were praying right before we came on, and just praying that this message for all who are watching, whether you are watching live or whether you are watching in the future, that this message will touch your heart, that you will literally hear the voice of the Father for your life, for your circumstances, and it will be revelation and understanding for the things that Yah needs you to know to make your life more fruitful, more abundant, more effective for what he has you doing in his kingdom. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and welcome my guest, Nurse Lee. Welcome.
Shalom. I'm so glad to be here with you today, Chelle. And like you said, I am super excited about this one. And everyone, I always say, this is my favorite one. I think I've said that every time I've dug in. And it is. It's always blows me away and gives me a whole different perspective on the body systems and what Yah, had as far as his blueprints, which is us.
Right. So I want to go ahead and say hello to a few of our guests. I can see here, Tammy, so good to see you today. So glad that you were here. I see, let me see as I go down. Brother Lee over in Wales. So good to see you, Brother Lee. If y'all don't know, Brother Lee and his lovely wife, Kat, have a presentation every Friday. For us, it comes on Friday afternoon at about 4:30 EST. However, over in Wales, they have already entered into Shabbat by the time they bring their presentation. I believe it's like 9:30 their time. So thank you. So glad you're here with us. Looking forward to what you have to bring us on Friday evening. And also, he'll be bringing our Torah portions. You know, we've got the feast coming up, and I know that Brother Lee has been digging into some great information concerning the feast and the presentations that they're bringing forward to try to help everyone, more fully engage. Like every year they come around in the cycle, and it's so important for us to even more fully engage and gain more understanding into Yah's ways and what he would have us do. So we so appreciate Lee and Kat bringing these things forward too.
Sure.
Wire Wool, so good to see you here today. And thank you. I am feeling a little bit better. Things are calming down a bit in my physical body, and I'm able to come and do this with Lee. And so thank you. And it's good to be here. And Brother James, Lee's husband, so good to see you. Thank you that you enjoy the presentations. And I'm just so glad that you're here. Oliver, welcome and shalom to you also. All right. Well, with that, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Boy, do we have a lot of information. I know I have a lot of information. And I know Lee and James have a show later today too. What will you guys be talking about, Lee, on your show today?
It's a continuance of the last several weeks where we've addressed different types of warfare, spiritual warfare, what it looks like, uh, attacks from within, and that's what we're talking about today: the enemy within, and how we can be our own worst enemy.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
how to course correct that, how to um, even though I am no pro at any of that, it actually is just as much a study for me myself as for anyone else.
That's what I have found is even study almost everything that we're studying out. It's amazing to me what I personally am getting out of it. I'm just like it feels more like I'm sharing all of what Yah is trying to tell me he wants me to understand for my
Yeah.
own personal walk and my own life. And so anytime too, I mean, we do a lot of kind of heavy subjects, and I never want anybody to feel like, we're trying to, lay something heavy on anybody, but this is what Yah is laying on us personally for our own walks. And it just feels like we're getting the opportunity to share that publicly.
Right. And plus, it does give hope, because with scripture, we're taught exactly how to help that. So it's not just saying this is what's happened or this is how we react. It's like, and here are instructions from Yah on how to manage that. And it's a reminder for me and James, as much as for anyone else out there. And in this season, it seems to have been necessary with the way the world is in general, and everything we've lived through. It's just something that makes us turn on ourselves sometimes.
Yeah. It was you had come to my house, you and James had come to mine and Robert's home over Shavuot, and that phrase course correct, you shared with me at that point. And that has really become like something for me to go back to that phrase over and over, because that's exactly what you're explaining. Yah kind of says, okay, here's what I need you to know so that we can course correct and get,
Right.
because all of us, we are the wandering sheep, are we not? It's so easy to get off the path within our emotions, within our thoughts, within
In my head, yeah.
wow. I mean, it's very easy. There's so many things always coming at you to try to get you off the track. But it's these kind of studies for me, and Yah, saying, listen, I need you to understand this information that helps me get my feet back on the path. And it's like he has to do it over and over, right? But
It's
that's
a
okay.
cycle.
He's a
It's
good
a cycle. Yeah.
yeah, he's a good father. And
He is such a good
he's a
father.
good shepherd, and he's using that staff of authority for those who have an ear to hear to say, nope, I want you going this way, you're wandering. Let's
It's
not
like he's herding cats, right? We're all the cats, and he's herding the cats back. And the minute he gets one back, the other one's taking off.
I wouldn't want his job.
No,
Absolutely not.
no.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, I have a lot of presentation. I may read through part of mine, and if it gets a little too tiring, I may stop, let you share for a while, and then if you want to pass it, but we might just kind of play volleyball a little bit here with our presentations, if you don't mind.
That's totally fine with me.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead.
However, the Ruach leads.
Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and add my very unfancy document to.
You always do so good. I think it looks very fancy.
I am lucky to just get it on a Word document to be able to share. And I did want to say hi, Sue. I see that you've joined us also, and we're so glad you're here. Okay. Sure. Heart of Benjamin. So this is the Psalm that Yah showed me back in 2004. I was working all this as he was showing me, what belonged to each tribe. And it was Psalm 5, verse 12. And it says, for you, Yahuah, will bless the righteous. With favor will you compass him as with a shield. And so that is where, thank you, James. He likes my font.
I knew he would.
So the key to understanding the heart of Benjamin is favor. So we find the naming of Benjamin in Genesis 35:15 through 21. And it says, and Yaakov called the name of the place where Elohim spoke with him Bethel. And they journeyed from Bethel, and there was but a little way to come to Ephrathoth. And Rachel, I just have to say Rachel. I can't always get the Hebrew right. And Rachel travailed, and she had hard labor. And it came to pass when she was in hard labor that the midwife said unto her, fear not, you shall have this son also. And it came to pass as her soul was in departing, for she died, that she called his name Ben-Oni. But his father called him Ben-Yamin. And Rachel died and was buried in the way to Ephrathoth, which is Bethlehem, or the house of bread is what that would translate into, right? And Yaakov, so they were on this journey to the house of bread, and Rachel dies on the way. And Yaakov set a pillar upon her grave. That is the pillar of Rachel's grave unto this day. And Yasharel journeyed and spread his tent beyond Migdal Eder. So to put this in perspective, you know, Benjamin is born. Joseph is about 6 years old when this takes place, because there's about a 6-year difference in them. Okay. So the name Rachel gave him was Ben-Oni, and it means son of my sorrow or son of my iniquity. It can be translated, when you dig deep into it, son of my false idols. Rachel was coming to terms with stealing the false idols of her father Laban's house and the pronouncement of a death sentence from her husband. Now, this story is found in Genesis 31:19 through 32. And I just think that it's really important for background information with this tribe and with this son. So I'm going to read it to you. It says, and Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the teraphim. Now, what were teraphim? These were the idols. These were literally shrunken heads. It resembles what it's where jack-o'-lanterns come from today, right? They would shrink the heads. It's nothing but this skull, and they'd put this copper piece, you know, in that would reflect light, because they'd put a candle inside, and the light would shine out of the eyes and the nose holes and the you know, just like what you see in a jack-o'-lantern. But it was literally a shrunken head. So, you know, when people wonder, oh, it's just innocent, people are just going out and getting candy and whatnot, it literally is not innocent.
Represents somebody's head chopped off that has a candle in it.
Yeah, it is. It's very demonic. And I know on a future Walking in the Word, before we get to that whole season where all this is celebrated, we're going to take a deep dive into the witchcraft that is associated with things. And we're going to be taking a deep look at all that. So I hope y'all will join us for that program. But like I said, it'll be later on in October when we do that. But I wanted to tell you, what is a teraphim? Okay. And so they were her father's teraphim, and Yaakov stole away unawares to Laban the Aramean, in that he told him not that he fled. So, you know, Jacob waited till Laban was out shearing the sheep, and this is when Yah said, it's time for you to go. And so he left. So he fled with all that he had, and he rose up and passed over the river and set his face toward Mount Gilead. And it was told Laban on the third day. Always interesting, these third day references, right? On the third day that Yaakov was fled, because it was about the third day that Pharaoh decided that he was also going to pursue, right, the children of Yasharel that had left, right? It's always these third day connotations that are very, very interesting, that there's like a showdown between those who are intent on evil and those who are Yah's people. You know, and I think we're still looking for that third day showdown, but this time they're going to have to deal with Yahusha HaMashiach, right?
Right.
Right. So it was told Laban on the third day that Yaakov was fled, and he took his brethren with him and pursued after him 7 days' journey, and they overtook him in Mount Gilad. And Elohim came to Laban the Aramean in a dream by night, and said unto him, take heed that you speak not to Yaakov either good or bad. I mean, Yah is so gracious that he warns him. Don't rush headlong into this. You better watch your attitude, is what he's saying in a dream, right? Then Laban overtook Yaakov. Now Yaakov had pitched his tent in the mount, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the mount of Gilad. And Laban said to Yaakov, what have you done, that you have stolen away unawares to me, and carried away my daughters as captives, taken with the sword? Now, poor Jacob, Yaakov, had spent 20 years hard labor working for these daughters, right? He spent 14 years for them, and then another 6 for, the blessings that he had, right? So it wasn't like they weren't his to take. Wherefore did you flee away secretly and steal away from me, and did not tell me, that I might have sent you away with mirth and with songs and with tabret and with harp? No, he wouldn't have. No, he wouldn't have. And have not suffered me to kiss my sons and my daughters. You've now done foolishly in so doing. It is in the power of my hand to do you hurt. Isn't that amazing? That's what these wicked rulers always think. You always see this attitude in the wicked rulership. I have the power to do with you what I will, right?
My power.
My power. Yeah. No regard for Elohim whatsoever. Okay. So let me see where I was here. Okay, it is in the power of my hand to do you hurt, but the Elohim of your father spoke to me yesternight, saying, take heed that you speak not to Yaakov either good or bad, right? And he knows, Yah has spoken to him. And now, though you would needs be gone, because you sore longed after your father's house, yet wherefore have you stolen my Elohim? And Yaakov answered and said to Laban, because I was afraid, for I said, perchance you would take by force your daughters from me. With whomsoever you find your Elohim, let him not live. Before our brethren discern what is yours with me, and take it to you. For Yaakov knew not that Rachel had stolen them. So unbeknownst to Yaakov, he has just put a curse upon his beloved Rachel, right? So the name Yaakov gave him is Benjamin, which means son of my right hand. It also means son of my happiness. If you look at it, it's like Ben is a son, Yam is day, so it's plural with the een, so son of days unto me. Really interesting there.
It's beautiful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So his actions in changing this child's name was a reflection of how he felt about Rachel. She had such a special place in his heart. He loved her at the first sight of her. He favored her over Leah and favored her sons over Leah's sons. Once he believed that Joseph was no more, that Joseph had died, he became extremely protective of Benjamin. This favor continued into Benjamin's adult life. While the famine hit Mitzrayim and the surrounding land, Joseph had become viceroy in Mitzrayim. Joseph was approximately 39 years of age. So Benjamin was 6 years younger, making him approximately 33 years old by then, right? But Yaakov so favors Benjamin as compared to how he treats his other sons that we almost get that impression in scripture that Benjamin is just a little boy, just a young lad, right? So his attachment is so great. Yaakov's attachment is so great to Benjamin that despite the fact that the entire family is getting ready to perish from lack of food, he's refusing to let Benjamin go and put his life at risk. Not only do we see this covering and protection from Yaakov, but we see there's been a complete change of attitude in the brothers from how they treated Joseph to how they now treat Benjamin. They volunteer their sons' lives. They offer to take his place in times of trouble, right? So he is treated with kid gloves. And this has to be coming like from their guilt,
Right. Definite
So they're
guilt.
living, yes, underneath this oppression of guilt for what they have done and the distress they've caused their father. And they just don't know how things are going to play out. And they've been living underneath this for a long time now, right? So I have this in my notes. I've met golden boys before, those people who seem to be born with the silver spoon in their mouth. Spoiled children who think they have more rights than others, that their needs are more important. We see the most horrid example of what this sense of entitlement can lead to in Judges chapters 19 through 20, really going into 21. The Benjamites had become sodomites, and no foreign man was safe to enter their territory. In this story, a Levite living in the land grant of the tribe of Ephraim, because remember, the Levites had no land grants of their own, right? They had no land that was their inheritance. They were dispersed to live within other tribes so that they could be the priest in that land, right? And the example of what we're supposed to be doing and how we're to honor Yah. So the Levite living in the land grant of the tribe of Ephraim travels to the city of Givah, a town in the territory of Benjamin. Ironically, he wanted to stay in a town that belonged to those of the household of Yasharel because he thought it would be safer. The men of Benjamin are called the sons of Belial, some of them, right? There are some that have become the sons of Belial. Not all of them, but some of them. It's really interesting.
It is.
So we see this in Shoftim or Judges, chapter 19, starting in verse 15, going through 24. And it says, oh, hello, Laura Lee. So glad that you could join us today, too. Good to see
sister.
you. All right. So Judges 19, 15 through 24. And they turned aside thither to go in and to lodge in Givah. And when he went in, he sat him down in a street of the city, for there was no man that took him into his house to lodging. And behold, there came an old man from his work out of the field at evening, which was also of Mount Ephraim. And he sojourned in Givah, but the men of the place were Ben Ha-Yamini. It means, so this guy that's living in the town is not truly from the town. He's not from that tribe. He's also from Ephraim, but he happens to be living there for whatever reason, business purposes, family things. I mean, who knows, right? All we know is that he's from Ephraim, but now he's living there. Okay. And he's an older gentleman. And he asked him, whither do you go and whence do you come? I mean, because this is out of the ordinary, right? Because this is a dangerous city. It's like what I would imagine nighttime Seattle has become, nighttime Portland, Oregon has become in the United States of America, right? It's not safe anymore to travel those streets at night. Okay. So he's asking him, where are you coming from? And he said unto him, we're passing from Bethlehem. We're passing from the house of bread of Yehudah toward the side of Mount Ephraim. For thence am I, he's saying, because I'm from there, right? And I went to the house of bread Yehudah, but I am now going to the house of Yahuah. And there's no man that receives me to the house. He's like, no one's welcomed me in, He's like, this is a strange thing because the Abraham, all the descendants of Abraham stressed how important hospitality was, and everything that he taught, this was the teaching that came down. Be hospitable, to the foreigner. And literally, Abraham in his territory, when he first settled, put it in, he built a place that 4 major roads would intersect that was full of the graciousness of hospitality, to welcome strangers, to be good to others, you know? And so that's the heritage of Yasharel. That should be one of the major characteristics within us as a people, is hospitality, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So he's saying to him, okay, I'm from toward the side of Mount Ephraim. From thence I am, and I went to Bethlehem, Yehudah, but I am now going to the house of Yahuah, and there's no man that receives me to his house. Yet there is both straw and provender for our asses, and there's bread and wine also for me and for your handmaid and for the young man which is with your servants. There's no want of anything. So what's he saying here? He's literally like saying, you know, it looks like this is a good town, a good place, because right out here in the square, they're making provision for the foreigners, for the strangers that pass through. There's hospitality within the town square. The thing is, this old man who lives there amongst these people understands that's a setup.
Yeah.
It's a setup, right? So he says, where am I here? And the old man said, peace be with you. Howsoever, let all your wants lie upon me. Only touch not in the street. So he brought him into his house and gave provender unto the asses, and they washed their feet, and they did eat and drink. You know, so this old man from the same place that this traveler was from this Levite was from, understood what was going on, and he extended true hospitality and true safety. Now, as they were making their hearts merry, behold, the men of the city, certain sons of Belial, right, beset the house round about and beat at the door and spoke to the master of the house and the old man, saying, bring forth the man that came into your house, that we may know him. Right? So they had the same nature as the people of Sodom had.
Sodom. Yeah.
Exactly the same setup here. And the man, the master, my brethren, the master of the house went out unto them and said unto them, nay, my brethren, nay, I pray you, do not so wickedly, seeing that this man is come into my house. Do not this folly. Behold, here's my daughter, and my daughter, a maiden, meaning my virgin daughter, right? And his concubine, them I will bring out now, and you humble them, right? What happened to the chivalry of manhood? I don't know there in this story, right? And do with them what seems good unto you, but unto this man do not do such a vile thing, right? He had no problem sacrificing the women, and I can't even begin to wrap my mind around that, so I won't comment further on that one. But to me, I look at it and go, what the heck was wrong with these men that are supposed to have the position of protectors of women, that they would sacrifice the women in this way?
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking.
And why didn't they take it to Yah? I see no one pause and pray, or, you know, nothing like that happened. They just knee-jerk reaction. Here's the answer, you know, and Yah would not have said to do that.
No, I don't think so. You know? Okay. So after this woman's given over to the crowd's lust and abused to death all night long, then the Levite that she belonged to divides her body into 12 parts, right? This is done by her master, and sends it abroad to the 12 tribes to incite them to war against Benjamin, to bring them back into right behavior. The tribe was almost wiped out completely. Only 600 men were left. None of their women or children were left. This tribe assimilated into the tribe of Yehudah for the most part, and became what was known as the southern house of Yasharel. Now, prominent people from this tribe. Shalom, Jennifer. Good to see you with us today. So glad you were able to join us. Okay. So, prominent members of this tribe are King Saul, Queen Esther and Mordecai, the Apostle Paul or Shaul, right? They were all from this tribe. However, the tribal bloodlines were quite blurred, as we see from the story in Judges, because the leaders of the other tribes joined together and fight against Benjamin, reducing their number of men to 600, and all their wives and children were wiped out. And all the other tribes of Yasharel had made a pact that none of their women would ever be given in marriage to a Benjamite. Now, I can't help but comment on this a little, because one of the things that rages within this Torah community, Hebrew roots community, whatever you want to call it, is everybody, it seems like I have conversation after conversation with people that comes up to me and goes, guess what? I've had my DNA tested and I'm Jewish. And I'm almost like, yeah, let me guess. It came back that you're Jewish, right?
Yeah.
This bloodline, when you understand this story, and that a majority portion, and this has happened in all the tribes, it's happened since they came out of Egypt with the mixed multitude. I mean, this has gone on and on and on. To think that there's some kind of, purity within the bloodline is just, it's totally contradictory to what we know from the written word of Yahuah. Right? It doesn't match at all, because it's filled with the story of the bloodlines of foreigners. Why? Because just like we read last week at the end of our show with Galatians 3, this is not about a bloodline as much as it is about a belief system, right? It's those who understand who Yahuah is and the redemption that he gave us through the blood of his son, Yahusha, and welcomed us into the family because of that. And you only get that through belief. It has nothing to do with what your bloodline is.
Right. We are grafted into Yasharel. We're grafted in, and those parts can be grafted out and cut out. The original parts and the grafted in parts, we're all the same at this point, and everyone's going to answer it. You don't. All Jews don't go to heaven, and we've heard that thrown in our faces many times. I actually was watching a different presentation the other night and had just bounced into the chat and saw literally someone say that as an argument, that none of the rest of us are, but all of them are. And I was like, wow, it's literally just insane, the fight there. I just want to say, you need to go, read a little deeper into the word. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Scripture, having this scriptural understanding, it's funny. I think it's in Ecclesiastes when it talks about the reading of many books brings people to a state of confusion. I'm very much paraphrasing what I remember out of that.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact address, but I know that I have read that because I've thought about it often because these opinions, and this is my deal even with the Talmud, and I believe that I'm in good company, because I believe that this is Yahusha's opinion of what the Talmud was doing to people too. It was dragging them far away from scripture and what Yah had to say to his people. And it was inserting the opinion of man, which is, I'm sorry, but he tells us very clearly, your thoughts are not my thoughts. Your ways are not my ways. For my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. And that's out of Isaiah somewhere. And I don't know the address, but I know that scripture is there. And we have to wrap our brains around this, right?
Marley has this. It's not about our blood, it's about his. Amen.
Sister. Absolutely. Okay. So I'm going to continue on in my story here. Judges, we're skipping down to Judges 20:11 through 16. And if you've never read through this whole thing in context, please read all of 19, 20, and 21 for the full context of this, right? So it says, so all the men of Yasharel were gathered against the city, knit together as one man. I mean, there is nothing like outrage to knit people's hearts together like that.
Yeah.
Right?
People bond together over, having the common enemy.
It is so true. It's our human.
Oh boy,
nature.
we go to war,
Right. And we're justified.
Yeah.
I know. I'm as guilty of it as anybody, right?
Oh, me too.
Yeah. So all the men of Yasharel were gathered against the city, knit together as one man. And the tribes of Yasharel sent men through all the tribe of Benjamin, saying, what wickedness is this that is done among you? Now, therefore, deliver us the men, the children of Belial, which are in Givah, that we may put them to death and put away the evil from Yasharel. So, I mean, they have a solution. They're going to the entire tribe of Benjamin and saying, we don't want to destroy all of you, but we are not going to put up with what is being done with these sodomites, these sons of Satan that are doing this, right? And if you're not going to deal with them, we will deal with them at this point, right? So it's like all the older brother tribes are coming to the youngest brother and saying, listen, little brother, you're not doing what you should. We'll take care of this, but we're not going to let it pass. This is going to be dealt with, right?
Right.
And what happens, they say, but the children of Benjamin would not hearken to the voice of their brethren, the children of Yasharel, right? But the children of Benjamin gathered themselves together out of the cities unto Givah to go out to battle against the children of Yasharel. And the children of Benjamin were numbered at that time out of the cities 26,000 men that drew the sword. Besides the inhabitants of Givah, which were numbered 700 chosen men. Among all this people, there were 700 chosen men left-handed. Everyone could sling stones at a hair's breadth and not miss. It's funny. My husband and I enjoy archery. And there's this guy called Lars Anderson. I don't know if anybody's ever seen him, but he can shoot a bow. And I mean, he never misses a thing. And he can do it on the move and from a horseback and from flying through the air. And I mean, just all kinds of crazy things. And he's always dead on target. And it kind of reminds me of this. There was a special skill that was particular to their tribe. And these men happened to live and be from this area of Givah,
Right.
So I just found that really interesting. They were definitely, definitely gifted. You go, okay, yeah. I was going to say they were definitely gifted in a special way.
The only thing I was going to add is when I was growing up, I played softball, fast pitch softball. I loved it. And I learned how to bat ambidextrously. So I could bat left-handed. I'm right-handed, but I could bat better left-handed.
Wow.
And the good thing about that is you throw the pitcher off out of their game. Basically, you start right-handed, but then you switch up to left-handed and they will inevitably hit you with the ball. So if it's a tough pitcher that no one is able to bat against, they're all striking out, I could get out there and at least start getting on base because I would. Now, granted, I had to be hit, but that's how you throw somebody off their game. And when I was reading into this last night, that was one of the things it said was that it caused the people they were fighting to be off their footing, because then it's like you're having to rearrange your mind of how to counter this person. Because if you're right-handed and they're right-handed, that's one way, but now they're this way. So it's like kind of throws the other team off their game.
Yeah. I love that. Laura Lee said, that's too funny, Lee. It is. That's great.
I got hit a lot, but I also got on base. So there you go.
That's one way to accomplish it, isn't it? Use my body as a shield.
That's right.
All right. So we can see that these were some very confident warriors, so confident in their abilities that being ambidextrous gave them that they were not afraid to take on all of Yasharel in a fight.
Right.
So that quality of being ambidextrous, it says only 1% of all people have this trait when I was looking into it. Yeah. So it's a rare thing that you were able to do that.
It
They
is
could
rare.
and it says when you really look into like what is different about this, and you'll have to tell me because I don't have this quality, right? But you'll have to tell me if you've experienced any of this. It says they can experience things to a higher degree. They're much more intuitive. Many of them say they can literally hear color.
I've
This would
heard of that.
Yeah, this would indicate an ability to experience vibrational frequencies in a way that most of us don't even realize exist. They can experience synesthesia. This is a brain condition that triggers more than one of the five senses of touch, taste, hear, see, and feel at once. Right. So I always think of that almost like that a sensory processing disorder that a lot of children have at this point because of things that have been done in our society medically,
Yeah.
but it literally I would think that was a special quality though without medical intervention that the ambidextrous experience. It says their brain literally has symmetrical functionality. And I bet you understand that a lot better than I do. Did you want to talk about that at all?
Well, now I can't write left-handed or paint left-handed. Really, the only thing I ever taught myself to do was to bat. And I could hit like I could do it. I could hit the ball. But I've always been very intuitive. I've just been that from, like a child of trauma. You learn to
Yeah.
be very intuitive. I did watch not long ago a program on a gentleman that he smells, he tastes them, or it's that his taste is a smell. There's something there where, and they said it was that he's able to use both hemispheres of his brain. So he has this interference of his senses not being separate, but that one causes another to happen, even when that's not the one being activated at the time. So
Wow.
it's quite interesting how that works. I've known a lot of left-handed people, and like you probably know, most people our age or older were made to be right-handed. They were
Yes.
forced to write right-handed instead of left-handed because there was a stigma to the left-handed. And that makes me wonder, could that have come from this? Could that stigma of the left-handed person being bad been something that followed the Benjamite tribe from what they did? See that association
I
there? And most of
do.
the things that we have issues with now are really just something we carried from deep in our past forward. So
Yeah.
that's something I really thought about there. Is I wonder if that stigma of the left-handed person not being as good really was a reflection of what they thought about the Benjamites.
Yeah.
They literally almost wiped them off the map.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective, but absolutely. Okay. Let me add this back. Okay, so continuing on in this Judges chapter 20. And the children of Yasharel went up against the children of Benjamin on the third day and put themselves in array against Givah as at other times. So I wanted, and hopefully I should have done this ahead of time, but let me see if I can do it. So I wanted to just show you guys like where, let me see if I can make this. What do I do here? Control click. Okay. Let me see if I can open this. I wanted you to see where Givah is located and this tribal allotment, because I thought that was really interesting. Give me a second as I get this up. All right. So you can see here, let me This is where the tribal allotments, and around this time period, right? Because we're in the book of Joshua and Judges. So this would have been applicable at this time. So we can see here, here's Naphtali up here. Tyre, the city of Tyre is in Asher, Zebulun right here, Issachar right next to him. There's the Mount of Jezreel. Very interesting, right? In the tribal area that belongs to Issachar. Then we go on down, look at the area that Manasseh had. I mean,
on the east and the west. That's amazing.
Yes, it's huge, right? And then you see Gad over there on the other side of the Jordan with the half tribe of Manasseh. Ephraim's over here, right? Then you've got, there's Benjamin. And look what's in Benjamin.
Jerusalem. And Jericho.
And these such important areas, and here they are right here next to Yehudah, and there's Bethlehem. This is what we were talking about. Bethlehem, Bet-Lechem, house of bread, right? That's what it is. Isn't that interesting that, this is the home of Yahusha coming from Bethlehem, right?
Right.
And the house of bread, and he is the living bread, right?
The
Here's
bread of life.
God
He sure is
broken for you. Yeah, right there. And yet look at the correspondence to right. So these people, and I it's hard for me to pinpoint exactly this city. I'm not sure where within this part that Yahuah would be, but it's within this small little bit, very close to Jerusalem, right? I mean, amazing. So I just wanted you guys to be able to see that and see what we've got going on here. You see Reuben on the other side, we see Simeon down here below Yehudah.
I can't help but think about, I don't know if you've seen the news, what's supposed to happen today. Looking at Manasseh just struck me. Israel is supposed to announce they're going to push for a two-state, Israel to be a two-state, like to separate it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's supposed to be announced today. And it just struck me looking at Manasseh like that. That's literally prophetically what we're about to see happen.
Yeah. Wow.
The two-state system to be in Israel. And I know we can't get into that, but boy, that's just quite interesting seeing that with this map. And it just made me think of that.
It is. And for those who watch that don't realize, we do have Telegram channels, and certainly we have one called Reports from Under the Desk on our website, which is heartofthetribes with an S on the end.org. You will see all the links for our Telegram channels. If you're watching this and would like to be a part of that, these type of news of interest to the household of Yasharel, we try to, put anything that comes across our path, or those our members, when they see something. Thank you so much. That's perfect. We've got the banner going across the bottom now. So we put these things in. So as we see any developments like that, please look at our Telegram channels, join in with us on conversation. You were quite welcome to discuss all kinds of current events in that Reports from Under the Desk Telegram channel. And we'd love to have you in a discussion with us about these things that are, because we live in very interesting times.
We sure do. And it's the last 3 days, I have to say, there has been so much rocking and shaking and things going on. I'm not shocked anymore at what the news is. And if you go to our website, on the intro page at the bottom is where the whole list of our Telegram groups are, that you can join right there, right from there.
Yeah,
so that's absolutely the cool part.
So it says Yahuah or Gibeah is what it's translated into in the English, right? Is located on the edge of the Wadi Suwinit, looking northward to the opposite valley of ancient Michmash, or in the modern, it's called mukmas. I dug pretty far into this, but I didn't put it all in my notes because we'd be here for 6 hours, right? Maybe if we ever get to the point of like actually writing some of this down, putting it together in written form, we'll be able to share a lot more in a book form, but really
Yes.
interesting. So the city of Yerushalayim is located within that territory of Benjamin. And I wanted to read this out of Deuteronomy 13. This is the chapter of Deuteronomy 13, the entire chapter. It says, if there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams and gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder come to pass, whereof he spoke unto you, saying, let us go after other Elohim, little e, which you have not known, and let us serve them. Ye shall not hearken unto the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for Yahuah Elohim proves you to know whether you love Yahuah Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul. You shall walk after Yahuah Elohim and fear him and guard his commandments and obey his voice. And ye shall serve him and cleave unto him. And that prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he's spoken to turn you away from Yahuah Elohim, which brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim and redeemed you out of the house of bondage, to thrust you out of the way which Yahuah Elohim commanded you to walk in. So shall you put away the evil from the midst of you. I mean, it's telling right there if this is going on. So we can see Benjamin's response was not right. You know, the other tribes, the elder brothers, were right in what they were saying. We've got to destroy this. We can't have this wickedness, right? So if your brother, the son of your mother, or your son, or your daughter, or the woman of your bosom, he's like saying, I don't care how close to you they are, right? Or your friend, which is as your own soul, entice you secretly, saying, let us go and serve other Elohim, which you have not known, you nor your fathers, namely of the Elohim of the people which are round about you, nigh unto you or far off from you. For the one end of the earth, even unto the other end of the earth, you shall not consent unto him, nor hearken unto him, neither shall your eye pity him, neither shall you spare, neither shall you conceal him, but you shall surely kill him. Your hand shall be first upon him to put him to death, and afterwards the hand of all the people. And ye shall stone him with stones that he die, because he has sought to thrust you away from Yahuah Elohim, which brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, from the house of bondage. And all Yasharel shall hear and fear, and shall do no more any such wickedness as this is among you. If you shall hear say in one of your cities, which Yahuah Elohim has given you to dwell there, saying, now this is Deuteronomy 13:13, right? Certain men, the children of Belial, are gone out from among you and have withdrawn the inhabitants of their city, saying, let us go and serve other Elohim, which you have not known. Then shall you inquire and make search and ask diligently, and behold, if it be the truth, and the thing is certain, that such abomination is wrought among you, you shall surely smite the inhabitants of that city with the edge of the sword, destroying it utterly, and all that is therein, and the cattle thereof with the edge of the sword. And you shall gather all the spoil of it into the midst of the street thereof, and shall burn with fire the city, and all the spoil thereof, every whit, for Yahuah Elohim, and it shall be a heap forever. It shall not be built again. And there shall cleave not of the cursed thing to your hand, that Yahuah may turn from the fierceness of his anger, and show you mercy, and have compassion upon you, and multiply you, as he has sworn 7 oaths unto your fathers. When you shall hearken to the voice of Yahuah Elohim, to guard all his commandments, which I command you this day, to do that which is right in the eyes of Yahuah Elohim. I found that fascinating.
Absolutely.
You know, that it's right there in the Torah. So the Torah had already been given, you know, clear instruction had been given. We're not going to put up with this. And because he's referring to this as the abomination. To my knowledge, one of the huge things referred to as abomination is an activity of sodomy and the activity of eating like swine and the mouse and the unclean thing. These things are the two that really come to mind, described as when you live that kind of lifestyle to do these things, as absolutely abominable, right?
Yeah.
Both things really, when you think about it, are an assault upon the body.
On the tabernacle, you're polluting the temple. Yeah.
Yes.
You're
Yeah.
putting grossness within it.
Within it, both ways. Yeah. I mean, really. So I found that fascinating.
And he can't be there. He can't be in that temple. He won't be.
Which is exactly what he said, right?
Right.
He's not willing to do that. So I wanted to look at this. Let me see if I can make that just a little bit bigger here.
Shalom, Euphrasia. We have Euphrasia joining us.
Oh, welcome, Euphrasia. Good to see you here with us. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Okay. All right. So the sons of that's better, right? The sons of Belial, when I looked up this, so it's B'nai Ha Belial, right? So this Belial is H1100 within the Strongs and the Brown Driver Briggs. And it says a wicked, worthless, base fellow bent on destruction. It's actually two words, right? Bali means to just totally wear out, right? It's done there. It's like it can't be revived. It's completely worn out. To me, it's like, a favorite t-shirt or something, I don't know, that you've worn till it's just got great big holes in it. It cannot be even repurposed for something else. There's no soundness left to it whatsoever. It is done. It is worn out. And then this word ya'al means to gain, profit, or benefit. So when I put this together in the word picture, we've got a bet, a lamed, a yod, an ayin, and a lamed. So I said to myself, if I had to look at this and say from the odiot, what would the word picture be? I would say the word Belial means the house of this leader works with their hand, right? Works with what can be seen to lead others. What is it? It's the lust of the eyes that gets people in trouble. This is why Yahusha said, my people are not going to be those who follow after the signs and wonders. They can't be led around by eye candy. It's got to be that they can hear my voice, because that voice comes from his ruach, which he gave us as a gift. And it's an internal voice of Yah that leads us and guides us into his will and ways for us, and that's the voice that we have to be listening for.
Right.
So I wanted to get to that. Let me see what I had next. Okay. So I found this out of Wikipedia. It says Belial is a Hebrew word used to characterize the wicked or the worthless. The etymology of the word is often understood as lacking worth, from two common words, Beli, without, Ya'al, to be of value. Some scholars translate from Hebrew as worthless, Belial, while others translate it as yokeless. Okay, may he have no rising, or may he never rise. Only a few etymologists have believed it to be an invented name from the start. The word occurs 27 times in the Masoretic text in verses such as the book of Proverbs. Let me see. It's translated the Hebrew phrase Adam Belial as a naughty person. In the Hebrew text, the phrase is either sons of Belial or simply sons of worthlessness. Phrases beginning with sons of are a common Semitic idiom, such as the sons of destruction or the sons of lawlessness. Of these 27 occurrences, the idiom sons of Belial appears 15 times to indicate worthless people, including idolaters. The men of Gibeah or Givah right? The sons of Eli in 1 Samuel, Nabal, Shimei. The Geneva Bible from the 1560 Geneva Bible uses wicked. And at the book of Judges in 1922 has the marginal note of Eber, which is Hebrew, men of Belial. That is given to all wickedness. In the King James Version, these occurrences are rendered with Belial as capitalized. The sons of Eli, sons of Belial, are worthless men. The wicked men of a city is how it was translated in Judges 1922 out of the NIV. So anyway, Belial is applied to ideas, words, and counsel, to calamitous circumstances, and most frequently to worthless men of the lowest sort, such as men who would induce worship of other gods. Those of Benjamin who committed the sex crime at Gibeah, the wicked sons of Eli, insolent Nabal, opposers of God's anointed David, Rehoboam's unsteady associates, Jezebel's conspirators against Naboth, and men in general who stir up contention. Interesting, right? Indicating that the enemy power would no longer interfere with the carrying out of true worship by his people in their land. Yahuah declared through his prophet, "No more will any worthless person pass again through you. In his entirety, he will certainly be cut off." So I'm going to end with this little part, and then I'm going to let Lee give us her part, and then I'm going to come back with my with a little bit more. All right. So 400 of their wives came from Yabesh Gilead. Okay, in the story when you follow it out. So suddenly there's 600 men left after this battle. There's only 600 men of Benjamin left, and there's no, all their wives are gone, all their children are gone, all their stuff is gone, everything's gone. They've just got their land, right? So 400 of their wives came from a place called Yabesh Gilead. H3001 is the root and means something that's dried up. The other 200 came from Shiloh. So it's interesting when you dig further into that. But I'm going to leave it here and say Judges 21:16 through 25. Then the elders of the assembly said, "How shall we do for women for them that remain, seeing the women are destroyed out of Benjamin?" And they said, "There must be an inheritance for them that be escaped of Benjamin, that a tribe not be destroyed out of Yasharel." So this is all the leaders of the other tribes getting together to discuss this problem of possibly a tribe being totally wiped off the map, right? "Howbeit we may not give them women of our daughters, for the children of Yasharel have sworn 7 oaths, saying, 'Cursed be he that gives a woman to Benjamin.'" Then they said, because they were so angry, so they had done this in their anger and said, "We're not going to do this," right? Then they said, "Behold, there is a feast of Yahuah in Shiloh yearly in a place which is on the north side of Bethel, on the east side of the highway that goes up from Bethel to Shechem, and on the south of Lebanon." Therefore they commanded the children of Benjamin, saying, "Go, lie in wait in the vineyards, and see and behold if the daughters of Shiloh come out to dance in dances." So this is still in the territory of Yasharel. I mean, it's really hard to grasp what was happening here. "Then come ye out of the vineyards, and catch you every man his woman, and the daughters of Shiloh, and go to the land of Benjamin. And it shall be, when their fathers or their brethren come unto us to complain, that we will say unto them, Be favorable unto them for our sakes, because we reserve not to each man his woman in the war. For ye did not give unto them at this time, that ye should be guilty." And the children of Benjamin did so, and took them women according to their number of them that danced, whom they caught, and they went and returned unto their inheritance, and repaired the cities, and dwelt in them. And the children of Yasharel departed thence at that time, every man to his tribe and to his family, and they went out from thence, every man to his inheritance. In those days there was no king in Yasharel. Every man did what was right in his own eyes. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for now. I'm going to come back to explain some things about the banner and whatnot of the tribe, but I want to hear what Lee has to say first.
Awesome. That was all so good. It always is. I learned so much. And I love these opportunities because it's made me dig deeper, studying into the tribes that I've, been in churchianity my whole life, and no one ever discussed anything about the tribes ever. So I feel like I'm filling in gaps, as I go along. Like, oh my goodness, it's so enriching and amazing. And I love this picture because Benjamin Yaman is son of my right hand, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that a beautiful picture?
Beautiful.
And I feel that's what Yaakov felt about him. He, like you said, was so protective and doting, and he had a PTSD about him. I don't blame him. In his mind, Joseph was dead.
Yes.
He was grieving. So he was like, this is not happening again.
and don't you think, and I'm not sure from a medical perspective, you tell me if I'm thinking about this correctly, if the hard labor that Raquel had to go through to the point that it ripped apart her uterus, would that have caused even distress and PTSD just be an inordinate amount, a greater amount to this child? Yeah,
absolutely. The child would have been born probably, from reading this, what I get from it is she did abrupt, meaning that her lining or the sac that Benjamin was in started pulling away before he was delivering, and she hemorrhaged to death.
Yes.
And that's why what I get when it says she could feel herself slipping away, and I know from how many I've been in, that's what happens. And if you don't have the tools, and like they most certainly did not back then, to be able to quickly remove the baby and cauterize and stop the bleeding, she would have just died within a very short amount of time. But then they would have had a very sick little infant on their hands there. And yes, there would have been some things that I am assuming he probably required some rubbing, some patting, the things, whatever they did to get a baby breathing. I'm sure there was some tense moments there, and it could have even caused him some physical ailments. We see these children have a lot of neck and back issues. They can even be prone to have headaches. A lot of patients, a lot of people grow up with cerebral palsy, with a minor amount of it that really only presents itself as maybe, their arm may be a little weak and they may have headaches. It could have been things like that could have followed him his whole life as well. So we don't know, but I'm assuming that he definitely was a very frail child to begin with, to start with, having lived through that. And it's a miracle that he didn't die with her, because that's usually what happened.
Yeah.
All you got to do is walk through a cemetery and you see young infants and moms with them because they died in childbirth, both of them normally. So he was blessed. The Yaakov was blessed that he lived through that. He truly was.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as I dug into this, I absolutely love this talk. He was the 12th son of Yaakov and Raquel, 12 years after Joseph was born. She fasted for 12 days to conceive. So 12, 12, 12, I keep seeing that through this. That's a big number that's reflected all through this talk. She was very old when she gave birth. And so I am for certain that she did have an abruption of her uterus and she bled to death. And that's why, like you went over, she wanted to name him Benoni, the son of my sorrow. And Yaakov didn't want to curse him. He didn't want him to bring him any bad luck. So he gave him son of my right hand from the beginning. So the one thing I saw here is that he seemed fated to a life defined by both success and death, It says he was even lived through that, right? He
Right.
even made it. But as you have mentioned in Judges, death followed them rather closely.
Yeah.
So Bilhah was the nursemaid that ended up nursing Benjamin. And an article, I read several different studies over the last couple of weeks on this, and he had said, or someone had quoted somewhere that he had said he had no milk, so Bilhah had to nurse him. So psychologically it did affect him, because he was born to, his mother died, so technically the milk meant for him was gone. He had
Right.
another mom's milk, but it was not the milk made for him, so there was a sense of that separation for him, and yeah, I think it psychologically affected him.
Yeah.
Benjamin, in the blessing, I know you're going to go over deeper into this, but the ravenous wolf devouring the prey in the morning and dividing the spoil at night.
Yeah.
And I'll touched on that because it's such an interesting blessing. And it indicates that Benjamin and his people would be fierce warriors. However, the prophecy also made clear that the tribe's existence would be one of perpetual violence day and night. And that's what I just saw from this. It's just going to be violent. They're devouring the prey in the morning and dividing it at night. So these warrior-like people, like you said, were known for their archery skills and the slinging of the rocks. And you already touched on King Saul and Paul. I mean, it's so amazing what came from them. They may be the smallest tribe, but look, Paul was chosen by Yah to bring the Besorah to the Gentiles.
Yeah.
That's pretty important. And their blessing reflects a twofold existence. It truly does. One part before and one part after. The first part involves devouring the prey, consuming, mastication, which is to chew. So in digestion, we're going to see that's the very first part of the work of our digestive system. So in this twofold existence, we see the part of dividing and dividing the spoil, or separating the goods and placing in order of usage of each of them. And we're going to see a correlation in the digestive system and Benjamin in this very blessing of Yaakov. It's like prophetic. It really is. And doesn't it show us that the words that are spoken over us become reality for us? They really do. And to me, the more we dig into this and we read the testaments and we line it up with the digestive systems or the whatever body systems we're looking at, their words followed their children. These children, his words followed his children through their whole life and on. Like we're still under these words. So I know we all probably are pretty familiar. We've got the salivary glands and the mouth, the esophagus, the stomach, liver, gallbladder, pancreas. It's very important. And I want to say there were 12. There's 12 systems. We saw 12. Wait, let's go back.
Yeah.
He was the 12th son.
Right.
And it took 12 years after Joseph was born, and she fasted for 12 days and praying so she could conceive. Wow. And that's what I was going to say is it's amazing to me how these things line up. We've seen it over and over, even when we went over the stars in the beginning and to now. James says that image of the organs reminds him of the map of the different lands inherited. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
It all lines up. It's all a blueprint. And it just blows me away every time we dig into this. Something wanted me to look into ravine. Ravine is the base word of ravenous, right? He's the ravenous wolf, right?
Yeah.
And I put here, feeling like a ravenous wolf. The hypothalamus houses the hunger and satiety center. So that's developed in our brain. Several neural centers in the hypothalamus are involved in controlling of our food intake. The lateral nuclei of the hypothalamus acts as the feeding center because when they stimulated, they excite a voracious appetite. Like those times when we haven't eaten all day and all of a sudden you're like, I could just eat the whole cow.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
that is coming from your hypothalamus in your brain that has kicked you over into that hyperphagia, right?
Right.
Hypophagia is where you're not hungry at all. And our emotions drive those things, right? So when a lot of times when we're depressed, we don't eat. When we're sad, we don't eat. We just don't, because that is shut off. It's literally not even working. But in someone that's ravenous or ravine, the primitive root of ravenous, which is H2963, I really thought this was interesting. The primitive root is to pluck off or pull to pieces causatively to supply with food, as in morsels. Without doubt, to feed, raven, rend in pieces, surely tear.
Wow.
Surely tear into pieces. What do you do when you're chewing? The process of mastication, the first step in digestion is you're ripping and tearing food and breaking it down so it can be mixed with your saliva and move smoothly through your system. Otherwise, you would just choke to death.
Right.
So literally to raven something, to be ravenous is breaking and tearing things apart.
Well, you know what's interesting in that pictograph? If we were going to do it in the pictograph, you would have the tet, right? Which means like to encompass something, to totally surround. And then you've got a resh, which is the mind. So you've got something surrounding the mind that activates the mouth, which is the pay.
Isn't that amazing? See, I didn't even pull that up because there was so much else. That is so amazing how that works, because it's literally exactly what this first part was about that I pulled out, because that's what we all deal with, that is. And that ravenous appetite isn't just always for food, right? It just really isn't. And in Proverbs 13:25, the righteous has enough to satisfy his appetite, but the stomach of the wicked is in need. And that kind of correlates with what you went over in Judges, right? How they demanded, like, it wasn't just that they were going to have it with whoever it was that came out of the door, it and obviously didn't matter to them at that point, because they managed to rape them both to death. But that ravenous part of their brain, that hyperphagia they were going through, couldn't be satisfied, and it wasn't going to be until they got what they wanted. Wow. So they were being ruled so much by their flesh and by their wanton desires. It was crazy what they did. And still all these years later is totally we can't wrap our minds around it. So the digestive system processes are ingestion, propulsion, mechanical or physical digestion, those chemical digestion, absorption, and then the end result.
Right.
So the first step, ingestion, refers to the entry of food into the alimentary canal through your mouth. And the food is chewed up and mixed with saliva and enzymes, and that starts the breaking down of carbohydrates in the food. And helps you digest some of the lipids. All of these things are necessary for us to live. The chewing increases the surface area of the food and allows an approximate sized bolus to be produced so you can swallow, or like I said, you would just choke to death. Wouldn't work. It's Yah's design, grand design. It's perfect from the beginning to the end. And I keep going back to that blessing by Yaakov over Benjamin, because Benjamin is a ravenous wolf, devouring the prey in the morning and dividing the spoil at night. And I'm just amazed at the parallels between this study into this digestive system and Benjamin. Both are ongoing processes, day and night, the before and the after, the tearing, the breaking down, the raven, then dividing up the spoils and keeping what is needed and doing away with what is not. And that's what they do. All the subsequent steps in digestion are a replication of these initial steps I went over. Different enzymes are used, acids are used, things are broken down, separated, but it is those two processes throughout the whole digestive system. The purpose is strictly to divide the spoils, to keep the good, remove the waste.
Mm-hmm.
So the food that's been broken down is of zero value to the body unless it enters the bloodstream and its nutrients are put to work. So it matters what we put into our bodies. It matters what we put into ourselves. It really does. We really are what we eat.
Yeah.
And so eating clean is necessary. It really is, because if we're putting certain things into our body that are bad for us, they're not going to be utilized anyway. And
Right.
unless they enter our bloodstream and are nutrients for our good, that they're useless and they just leave our body, in and out. That would be it.
Yeah.
So all of that occurs through the process of absorption, which takes place primarily in our small intestine. There, most of our nutrients are absorbed from the lumen of the alimentary canal, which is, that canal is like what was in that picture. That's the whole tract from your mouth all the way down and out. That's considered your alimentary canal.
Right.
So into the bloodstream through the epithelial cells that make up the mucosa, and those lipids are absorbed into the lacteals and transported via the lymphatic vessels. And there we see working together again, the lymphatic, the hematological system, because then that goes into the bloodstream, just like we see our tribes working together. Our body systems rely and have to work with each other as well.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the way we are the blueprints. So I wanted to get into some of the testament of Benjamin.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think, did you have these top ones? I don't think you did. Did you? Because these are verse 1 or chapter 1, I think.
Nope.
I didn't want to read what you have, but
Nope. You go right ahead. You're good.
So I love all the testaments of the patriarchs, and you bringing this to my attention and reading these have been such a joy. I would suggest anyone and everyone to go there because there are pearls there. Yahusha is there. Our words for us are there. It's not just Jacob or Benjamin speaking to his brethren. It's that he's speaking to all of us. He's telling the story of Joseph right now. For Joseph also besought our father that he would pray for his brethren, that Elohim would not impute to them as sin whatever evil they had done unto him. So Joseph is praying for his brethren. He's praying for them. Please, Yahuah, don't hurt them. That please do not punish them. And hearing this, Jacob cried out and said, "My good child, thou hast prevailed over the bowels of thy father Jacob." Now that just, wow. How was that? How did y'all just really downloaded to you such an amazing thing here? Because I immediately was like, what is Jacob saying here? What's he really saying here when he says this? Joseph prevailed over the gut reaction of what Yaakov, his father, would have reacted. Or Joseph showed a reflection of our Messiah, giving those who mean him harm or death. It could be both. And Joseph prayed to Elohim to forgive his brethren who had wanted his death. They wanted him dead. They hated him. Yeah. And we've seen through every time we've read, it affected them in their guts, in their liver, in their gall. It's affecting them in their digestive system. So I found it just amazing here that Jacob says he has prevailed over the bowels of thy father Jacob. So then I was thinking, how we have that thing, that we say at one time or another, like my guts told me, or my gut reaction is blah, blah, blah. Is that some of what he was saying there? And as we see, our emotions are affecting our digestive system in many, many ways, many other ways. Just your stress can cause the emptying of your stomach to be delayed. Just being upset, just a little upset. This isn't even major trauma. This is just like you are having a stressful moment in your day. And that can lead to a stomach ache, to indigestion, heartburn, and nausea, because the stomach has just said, like, whoa, what's wrong? And just kind of slowed down, way down in its process, which messes up everything below it at that point.
Yeah.
Everything comes to a halt. And then the problem is that stress then increases the motor function in your large intestine. So most of us will have an upset tummy and experience that bowel urgency or diarrhea when we're very stressed out. That's because your stomach slowed down and the rest of your guts have sped up, and it's just not working together at all. It's a total disconnect there. So it very much affects our guts. Our stress has a direct, almost immediate response for some of us when we're going through a stressful situation. And Benjamin, we see here, implores his children and brethren in chapter 2, verse 1. And do ye, my children, flee evil doing, envy and hatred of brethren, and cleave to goodness and love. He that hath a pure mind in love looketh not after a woman with a view to fornication, for he hath no defilement in his heart, because the spirit of Yah resteth upon him. For as the sun is not defiled by shining on dung and mire, but rather drieth up both and driveth away the evil smell, so also the pure mind, though encompassed by the defilements of earth, rather cleanseth them and is not itself defiled. And I believe that there will be also evil doings among you, from the words of Enoch the righteous, that ye shall commit fornication with the fornication of Sodom, and shall perish all save a few, and shall renew wanton deeds with women. And the kingdom of Yahuah shall not be among you, for straightway he shall take it away.
Wow.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
He spoke those words and they happen.
Yeah.
As you see, this teaching that the warning was not heeded, and this exact scenario foretold happened. And I think there's like 100 years between this and that, aren't there? Like, I mean,
yeah, well, I mean, this happened. They wrote these words before these original tribes died. I mean, this was their final word, the same way that Abraham gave his blessing unto Yitzhak, and Yitzhak gives it to Yaakov and Esau, and then Yaakov gives this to the 12 tribes, and now the 12 tribes are giving this to those who follow them. So this is antiquity.
It is.
These were written
in
antiquity.
Totally amazing to me, and that's what I said. He was given this information prophetically. He really was. And it's a warning. It's a warning to them that they don't heed. No one ever heeds it. It kills me. You've been given the information. You should be looking out for that.
That's right.
But I did have to add in here that in Kings, we see Benjamin actually heed a word from Yahuah, some 418 years later. So this is 418 years after Judges, I believe, is where I got that 400 from. That was the time difference there. And you see in 1 Kings 12:19 through 24, Yasharel rebelled against the house of David unto this day. And it came to pass when all Yasharel heard that Yarovam was come again, that they sent and called him unto the assembly and made him king over all Yasharel. There was none that followed the house of David, but the tribe of Yehudah only. And when Rekav, let's see if my mouth will work, Rekav was come to Yasharaim, he assembled all the house of Yehudah with the tribe of Benjamin, 180,000 chosen men. which were warriors to fight against the house of Yasharel to bring the kingdom again to Rechab, the son of Shalamai. But the word of Elohim came unto Shema-Yahu, the man of Elohim, saying, Speak unto Rechab, the son of Shalamah, king of Yehudah, and unto the house of Yehudah and Benjamin, and tell the remnant of the people, saying, Thus says Yahuah, ye shall not go up, nor fight against your brethren, the children of Yasharel. Return every man to his house, for this thing is from me. And they hearkened therefore to the word of Yahuah, and returned to depart according to the word of Yahuah. So praise Yah, they listen there.
Yeah.
So how much happens in our gut other than digestion? How about immunity?
Wow.
So the defense of our body is vested largely in the lymphatic system and in its lymphocytes, and a substantial part of that is in the gastrointestinal tract, and that's occupied by that lymphoid tissue,
Wow.
which can be divided into 3 sectors. There's the 3. So the first is in your pharyngeal, your tonsils, and your appendix. So those things that people say you don't need, you actually need.
Yeah.
You actually need
to rip them out.
Yeah. And the large aggregates of nodules known as pyre patches that are located at intervals throughout the small intestine. So we see how important our gut health really is for our whole body. Yeah. And the second sector includes the lymphocytes and plasma cells that populate the basement membrane. I'm not even going to try to say that, of the small intestine, the area of loose connective tissue above the supporting tissue of the mucosal lining extending into the villi. And villi are like little finger projections that move everything around in there. So the third sector comprises lymphocytes that lie between the epithelial cells in the mucosa, and the interaction between these cells of the lymphatic system and the threatening agent is the basis of defense in the gastrointestinal tract. So your gut health is so important for your body's ability to have a good defense system, a good immunity. And so many times we take it for granted, get a hamburger through the drive-through, it matters what we put in to help us be able to fight.
Yep.
And I've got one more after this one, but I wanted to read this end of the Testament of Benjamin because it just touched my heart in such a way. It's an amazing what he's saying here. If ye therefore, my children, walk in holiness according to the commandments of Yahuah, ye shall again dwell securely with me, and all Israel shall be gathered unto Yahuah. And I shall no longer be called a ravening wolf on account of your ravages, but a worker of Yahuah, distributing food to them that work what is good. Wow. Every time I read this, I was like, that didn't say that. I have to read that again. That's exactly what that just said. He no longer wants to be known as that ravaging wolf, but he wants to be a worker of Yahuah, distributing food to them that work what is good.
Amen. Because without that food, this is your sustenance. This is what keeps you alive. This is where you would die. We die without food.
Right.
Amazing.
And there shall arise in the later days one beloved of Yahuah of the tribe of Yehudah and Levi, a doer of his good pleasure in his mouth, with new knowledge, enlightening the Gentiles.
Yeah.
Unto the all of these words have to do with digestion.
I know.
So good pleasure in his mouth until the consummation of the age shall he be in the synagogues of the Gentiles and among their rulers as a strain of music in the mouth of all.
Wow.
And he shall be inscribed in the holy books, both his work and his word, and he shall be a chosen one of Yah forever. And through them he shall go to and fro as Jacob my father, saying, he shall fill up that which lacketh of thy tribe. And when he said these things, he stretched out his feet and died in a beautiful and good sleep.
Wow.
Wow. I got teared up reading, and I had to read that over and over and over. It was like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
So my ending's pretty cool too. Benjamin, he camps in the western camp of the tabernacle with Manasseh and Ephraim, which are the sons of Joseph that form the house of Joseph.
Yeah.
Ephraim is the leader of the camp. They are the smallest camp, and Benjamin the smallest tribe. But as you see, they are anything but insignificant, working together even in our body to provide defense, immunity, nutrients, sustenance, and bring forth a fruitful life. From Benjamin, we end up with Paul, who is charged by Yahuah to take the Besorah to the Gentiles. Our digestive system literally supports all the other systems, and without it, we would not have any means to live at all. No nutrients and ability to utilize them, everything would die. I would say our digestive system is the driving life force, pushing us forward and providing the energy needed to endure. Sometimes our support comes from the smallest or seemingly insignificant thing or person. However, like the mighty mustard seed that form from something so minuscule, a mighty tree will flourish in our kingdom of Yahuah that is formed with the cornerstone Yahusha HaMashiach as the body gathering his people back together.
Wow.
And I loved going through this. This one was, it got me in my guts.
Yeah, really. The first thing that came to my mind as you were reading that last part was 1 Corinthians 12, how it talks about don't think that you don't need the uncomely parts, right?
Right?
It's not all about just who's the eye, who's the hand, who's the things that you can see, but the uncomely parts. And, when you look at that digestive system, that's a tube from an in tube to the out tube,
Right.
basically.
And what's the product? It's not anything we want to mess with, right?
I mean, wouldn't that be considered the uncomely parts,
But it supports us all.
You're not going to live without it.
Right.
It has to be in place. Yeah.
It does. And it struck me too that they were nearly wiped out for their iniquity. They were so full of sin that they were doing that thing that is abominable, an abomination. But look what came from that.
Yeah.
It wasn't that they were all just unworthy and we should never listen to any of them. Paul came from that,
Right.
He came from that to bring the word of the Besorah to the Gentiles,
Yep.
So I just, like you said, it all lines up. What may not seem like the best or the greatest, there is a purpose in all of us. There really is.
There absolutely is. All right. Well, I am going to share a little bit more here. Let me see where I was. Okay, let me see if this was it. Okay, here it is. All right. So back to the whole ravenous wolf. I love it that you dug in there, and I felt really to dig in there too, right? So the prophecy of Yaakov is found in Genesis 49:27. Benjamin is the ravenous wolf. In the morning, he'll devour the prey. At evening, he divides the spoil. And I'm seeing this dual nature to Benjamin. It could also indicate how the tribe matures as a whole as time passes. The morning is reflected of a me first type of very selfish nature. The evening shows the maturity that time and difficult circumstances highlight the value of family and community and Yasharel as a whole. The prophecy of Moses is found in Deuteronomy 33:12. Of Benjamin, he said, the beloved of Yahuah shall dwell in safety by him. He covers him all the day long. He dwells between the shoulders. Benjamin is called the beloved of Yahuah. Even in his birth, Yahuah had to protect his life, or he would have never made it out of the womb. In covering him all day long, we see Yahuah's constant protection over him. The wolf is the symbol that is on Benjamin's banner. The nature of the wolf is the same as a dog. They are of the same family, the same genome, right? They enjoy the hunt. They like to stalk their prey. They in small family groups. They do not put up with interlopers, right? They will gorge themselves way past their hunger, right? Taking in way too much. They don't stay away even from putrid food. They rip apart their prey. And of course, Rachel died in childbirth from a ripped uterus that caused her to hemorrhage to death. This would have been the individual tribal banner. I just found a little picture of one that someone had done. The wolf was what was on their banner for Benjamin. Benjamin is called the beloved of Yah. Even in his birth, Yah had to protect his life or he would have never made it out of the womb. And covering all day long, we see Yah's protection over him. So I looked at something and I think I just have it too small. But let me just kind of see if I can highlight a little bit. They have a very social nature. They cooperate in hunting game, so they'll kind of bound together. They like to howl. They travel in nuclear families. They have mated pairs. The offspring may leave to form their own packs at the onsets of sexual maturity and in response to competition for food within the pack. So it's all about, really the wolf is all about consuming. Everything that they do drives their need to consume food. Everything. It's amazing, right? I found this interesting. Like all land mammals that are pack hunters, the wolf feeds predominantly on wild herbivorous hoofed mammals that can be divided into large size and medium size and have a body size similar to the combined mass of the pack's members. The wolf specializes in preying on the vulnerable individuals of large prey. With a pack of 15 able to bring down an adult moose, the variation in diet between wolves living on different continents is based on the variety of hoofed mammals and of available smaller and domesticated prey. So wolves are very territorial and generally establish territories far larger than they require to survive, assuring a steady supply of prey. Territory size depends largely on the amount of prey available and the age of the pack's pups. Aggressive or self-assertive wolves are characterized by their slow and deliberate movements, high body posture, and raised hackles, while submissive ones will carry their bodies low or flatten out their fur and lower their ears and tails. So it just depends on what they're dealing with, whether they're aggressive or appear submissive, right? Depending on how they are perceiving things. I find this interesting. With medium prey such as roe, deer, or sheep, wolves will kill by biting the throat, severing nerve tracts and the carotid artery, thus causing the animal to die within a few seconds to a minute. So what happens? They bleed out. Isn't this what happened with Rachel, right? With small mouse-like prey, they'll leak and use their forepaws to try to smack them down, right? The Aesop fables have used it a lot. The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and the Three Little Pigs with the Big Bad Wolf, other different fables, that have come forward. So the Bible uses the images of a wolf lying with a lamb in a utopian version of the future. And Yahusha is said to have wolves as illustrations of the dangers of his followers, who he represents as sheep. So I wanted to look at this word wolf. In Hebrew, it is the word zeb. Okay, so I have it there. It's a Zion, an Aleph, and a Bet. So the word zeb is H2061 in the Strong's and Brown Driver Briggs. It means wolf. The word picture is a wolf will cut off from the leadership, from the leader of the house. Another way to look at that is a wolf will be a weapon against the leader of a house. right? Isn't that
Right.
interesting right there
That
in the
is.
word picture? So this is what Yahusha is trying to warn us about with wolves. Look at, how do you know if you're dealing with a wolf or a son of Belial, really, with this wolf nature, right? That's wanting to destroy. Okay. And it's somebody that comes along and they are trying to cut off the leadership's authority within the house. They're not supporting the leader. Their intent
Right.
is, let's cut it off. Let's destroy the leader and let me take their place.
Right.
Right? Very, very interesting. So in Ezekiel 22:23-28, and the word of Yahuah came unto me, saying, Son of Adam, say unto her, Ye are the land that is not cleansed, nor rained upon in the day of indignation. There is a conspiracy of her prophets in the midst thereof, like a roaring lion ravening the prey. Here's that word ravening again, right? They have devoured souls. They have taken the treasure and precious things. They have made her many widows in the midst thereof. Her priests have violated my Torah and have profaned my holy things. They put no difference between the holy and the profane. Neither have they showed difference between the unclean and the clean, and have hid their eyes from my Shabbats, and I am profaned among them. Her princes, the Sar, and I always look at this like, why does the word say like King of Kings, Adonai of Adonaiim, or, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, right? Why are there two distinct ones? What I believe when we're dealing with this word princes, that we're dealing with principalities that have been put
Yeah.
in place. I think that that's a clue. So her principalities or princes in the midst thereof are like wolves, ravening the prey, to shed blood and to destroy souls. Why? What is the purpose? To get dishonest gain. And her prophets have daubed them with untempered mortar, seeing vanity and divining lies unto them, saying, Thus says Adonai Yahuah, when Yahuah has not spoken, right? They have no fear of going in exactly what James is saying, coming in with a
Mhm.
false doctrine and saying this is the way it is, when it is not that way at all. And it's very sneaky.
It is.
There's a hunting aspect to it, very much, a
Mm.
stalking, hunting aspect to it.
Where we get that wolves in sheep clothing from, right?
I believe so.
Mhm.
In Zephaniah 3:1-3, we're given another warning. Woe to her that is filthy and polluted, to the oppressing city, right? This is what had taken place in this city of Givah. It had become a place of oppression. Okay. She obeyed not the voice. She received not correction. Because remember, they all came to her. They all came to Benjamin and said, listen, you've got to put the stop to this or we will.
Mhm.
Right? That's what happened. So she obeyed not the voice. She received not correction. She trusted not in Yahuah. She drew not near to her Elohim. Her princes within her are roaring lions, her judges. So now we've got the principalities ruling over things, and then we've got the men that are put in places of authority that to me look like puppets, of the
Yeah.
principalities, right? Her princes within her are roaring lions. Her judges are evening wolves. They gnaw not the bones till the morrow, right? They're just gonna literally
Chew it
break it
all
out
up.
and suck out every bit of life that they can out of it.
Mhm.
Here then we have Yahusha giving us a warning in Matthew 7:15-20. It says, beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits.
Mm.
Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs or of thistles? Even so, every good tree brings forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree brings forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that brings not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. Okay. Again, I mean, this is why we have to look at what's being produced in something. Is it always contention? Is it always a problem? Is it always negative? Is it always, well, you need to do it my way, not your way? My way is better than your way. Is it never supportive? Right? I mean,
Right.
these are the things that we end up dealing with trying to be in ministry. It's constant arrows, isn't it, Lee?
It is. It
And it's
is.
amazing because most of the arrows, they're not really coming from the outside. They're coming from the house of Yahuah, right? That's where it's coming from. It's brother against brother.
It's like that part we read from Spurgeon last week, James and I, when we did our Armor Up Buttercup, where he said, your enemies are not shooting at you from 5 miles down the road.
Yeah.
They're close enough for hand-to-hand combat.
It's so true, isn't it?
It is.
So Matthew 10:16-18 says, behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves, but beware of men, for they will deliver you up to councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues, and ye shall be brought before governors and kings for my sakes. Again, we have this 2 levels of authority. I believe we're being, it's heavenly realm and physical realm. Okay. For a testimony against them and the other nations. It's for my sake, for a testimony against them and other nations. So all this persecution has a purpose in Yah's kingdom, and it is to be a testimony of those who are acting this way.
Yeah.
And we go down to Acts. We see more of it in Acts 20:28-32. Take heed, therefore, unto yourselves and to all the flock over which the Ruach HaKodesh has made you overseers to feed. Here we go again, right? It's all about the mouth. It's the digestive, it's food, to feed the called out assembly of Elohim, which he has purchased with his own blood. For I know this, that after my departing shall grievous wolves enter in among you, not sparing the flock. Also of your own selves shall men arise, speaking perverse things to draw away Talmudim after them. Therefore, watch and remember that by the space of 3 years, I cease not to warn everyone day and night with tears. And I love this because this is a Benjamite speaking this to us, right? And now, brethren, I commend you to Elohim and to the word of his grace, which is able to build you up and to give you an inheritance among all them which are sanctified.
Amen.
I did find this interesting. Also, I've been studying for a long time, looking into which constellations line up to which tribe, because again, we have 12 constellations, right? And they each have 3 what are called deacons, which would be minor constellations that are a part of the greater 12, which is also very interesting. But in this one of Gemini, you've got the 2, you've got the duality right there. And what's interesting to me is within this constellation is what's known as the Canis Minor and the Canis Major. Well, when you look at the Canis Major, Canis is the word for dog, right? Mm-hmm. So it's drawing out a dog or a wolf, okay? And within this is this one star, which is like one of the brightest star, named Sirius. Yes. When you look at this one, this I found in the book Witness of the Stars by E.W. Bullinger. In the Persian planisphere, it is pictured as a wolf and is called Zeb, which in Hebrew has the same meaning. In its Arabic, it means come quickly. I just thought that was super, super interesting there.
So interesting.
And just to go a little bit further, I wanted to share something else out of the Testaments. And I didn't have time to put it in my notes, but I wanted to read you a little bit out of the Testaments for those who don't have this. I'm starting in chapter 2. This is the Testament of Benjamin. I am reading mine out of this book called Bereshit, put out by Sefer Publishing. And I'm starting in chapter 2, verse 8. And I'm going to read down through a little bit through 5. It sounds like it's more than it is. So anyway, it says, and let the thoughts among you be such, and let not these things come to the heart of my Father. Do ye also, therefore, my children, love Yahuah Elohim of heaven and earth, and guard his commandments, following the example of the good and holy man Yosef. So that good and holy man Yosef, he had told them what he had been having a conversation with Benjamin and said, well, what did my brothers tell you about what happened to me? And he told them, well, they said that they dabbed your coat with blood and sent it, and said, no, this be your son's coat. And Joseph said unto me, even so, brother, the Canaanite merchant stole me by force. He's saying, this is what I want the official story to be. I want you to decide that this is the official story, and this is going to be the official story. We're not going to lay blame on my brothers. I mean, you got to be really spiritual mature to go through what Joseph went through, and be able to say, nope, I'm not going to go by that story. I'm going to rise above this situation. I wish I had that kind of maturity. I'm working on it. I'm reading things. I'm praying about it, but wow, this is what he said. Yeah, don't tell my father. He tells his brothers, don't tell my father what you've done to me, but tell them as I told Benjamin. Let this be the official story, right? And let the thoughts among you be such, and let not these things come to the heart of my father. Do ye also, therefore, my children, love Yahuah Elohim of heaven and earth, and guard his commandments, following the example of the good and holy man Yosef. See, again, he's saying, my father is the father of heaven and earth. He's the father of the heavenly realm and the race of angelic beings that he created, and of the earthly ones. Again, we get this duality, that he's trying to get us to understand. And let your mind be unto good, even as you know me. For he that has his mind right sees all things rightly. Right? It all starts with what we're thinking about. Fear ye Yahuah and love your neighbor. And even though the Ruach Koth of Baal claim you to afflict you with every evil, yet shall they not have dominion over you. He's trying to give us a clue, I believe, like to rise above this earthly realm view that we have,
Yes.
That this person said this to me, and start looking at what's stirring it up, what's happening in the unseen realm that we don't have the ability to see. He's like,
Exactly.
really prompting us. Yeah, it's amazing.
It is.
Yeah. So fear Yahuah, love your neighbor, and even though the Ruach of Baal claim you to afflict you with every evil, yet shall they not have dominion over you, even as they had not over Joseph my brother. How many men wished to slay him? And Elohim shielded him. So when I saw that this morning when I woke up, almost always Yah will tell me, I would like you to read this today when I wake up. Almost every morning I get something when I first wake up. He's very gracious and kind to me in that way to try to help me, right? So he told me, I want you to read Psalm 97. This is what I heard. I'm only going to read this part. It's Psalm 97:10. It says, ye that love Yahuah hate evil. He guards the souls of his Hasid, and he delivers them out of the hand of the wicked. Right? So what he's saying is he guards our souls when we're his saints, when we've been set apart for him, when we are living for him. He literally has a protection and a guard over our very souls, right? Which is what is being attacked by the wicked one. He delivers them out of the hand of the wicked. Amazing. And then I was reading this right here, and it all comes together, right? Elohim shielded him. For he that fears Elohim and loves his neighbor, and I'm back in the Testament of Benjamin. I'm in the 3rd chapter of it. For he that fears Elohim and loves his neighbor cannot be smitten by the Ruach of Baal. Unbelievable, right?
Unbelievable.
And it's the exact thing that Yahusha told us. If you want to keep all of the Torah, love Yah with all your heart, all your mind, all your strength, with everything that's in you, love him, and love your neighbor as yourself. It's right here in the Testament too. This is exactly where this is coming from. You know? Right. So when we do this, for he that fears Elohim and loves his neighbor cannot be smitten by the Ruach of Baal. He's saying, if you'll just do what I told you to do, this Ruach of Baal cannot get to you. Amazing. Being shielded by the fear of Elohim. That when we fear Elohim, it's like a force field against the enemy. This is what I see in this. Nor can he be ruled over by the device of men or beast. What are we dealing with in this age if it's not the device of the beast? It's all over. This is the time that we live in. And so he's saying, if you want to be shielded from this, I mean, everybody's promoting all the EMF shields and the this and the that and the other. Here's a shield for us. I'm not saying that those things aren't that those things are without merit, because they are. But the true shield that we need is to love our neighbor as ourselves. Right? And to love Yah with everything that we've got. So here it is again. This is in 3:5. Nor can he be ruled over by the device of men or beast, for he is helped by Yahuah through the love which he has towards his neighbor. Amazing. For Joseph also besought our father that he would pray for his brethren, that Yahuah would not impute to them as sin whatever evil they had done unto him. And thus Yaakov cried out, my good child, you have prevailed over the bowels of your father Yaakov. And he embraced him and kissed him for 2 hours, saying, in you shall be fulfilled the prophecy of heaven concerning the Lamb of Elohim and Savior of the world, and that a blameless one shall be delivered up for Torahless men, and a sinless one shall die for wicked men in the blood of the covenant, for the Yeshua of the other nations and of Yasharel, and shall destroy Baal and his servants. Amazing. Chapter 4. See you therefore, my children, the end of the good man. Be followers of his compassion, therefore, and with a good mind, that you also may wear crowns of glory. For the good man does not have a dark eye. It reminds me of what we're seeing, the symbolism.
The one-eye symbolism.
Mm-hmm. The dark eye, right? Okay, so the good man does not have a dark eye, for he shows mercy to all men, even though they be sinners. And though they devise with evil intent concerning him, by doing good, he overcomes evil, being shielded by Elohim, and he loves the righteous as his own soul. If anyone is glorified, he does not envy him. If anyone is enriched, he is not jealous. If anyone is valiant, he praises him. The virtuous man he lauds. On the poor man he has mercy. On the weak he has compassion. He sings praises unto Elohim. As for him who has the fear of Elohim, he protects him as with a shield. It's there again. He that loves Elohim, he helps. He that rejects El Elyon, he admonishes and turns back. And he that has the grace of a good Ruach, he loves as his own soul. Chapter 5. If therefore ye also have a good mind, then will both wicked men be at peace with you. And the profligate will reverence you and turn to good. And the covetous will not only cease from their inordinate desire, and that's that ravenous desire, right?
Mhm.
But even give the objects of their covetousness to them that are afflicted. If you do well, even the unclean ruach will flee from you, and the beast will dread you. Look at that. I mean, I look at that. The beast, okay?
Yeah.
There's no accident in these words. The beast himself will dread you. For where there is reverence for good works and light in the mind, even darkness flees from him. For if anyone does violence to a holy man, he repents. For the holy man is merciful to his reviler and holds his peace. And if anyone betrays a righteous man, the righteous man prays. Though for a little he be humbled, yet not long after he appears far more glorious, as was Joseph, my brother. I just thought that was amazing. There's
there's so much in that Testament of Benjamin. Actually, in all of the I've got to get that version of the book because I've been downloading, finding the PDFs, but just Benjamin blew me away. Every part of it blew me away. It's beautiful.
It really is. You know,
and it's instructions.
I
for
do
all
like,
of us.
Yeah, I do like using this because what I find is the word connections, because so much of the Hebrew pronunciation, transliteration has been restored within the Sefer, that when I use these other books by the Sefer, it's very consistent and I can find connections that I couldn't otherwise find. So I see a lot of value in that. And
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this has been another good one, Lee. I really enjoyed doing this with you today.
I really enjoyed it as well, Chelle. It just, I think, can bring us a lot of knowledge and another part of our toolkit in how to proceed in the world that we live in right now, because those words are for us every bit as much as they were for his brethren and children. And when you speak them and when we read them, I know that it's directed at our generation, at all of us that are here now and in such a time as this, right?
Yes.
While we're gathering together.
We are being regathered. and it's not without its challenges, as y'all always know it would be. And most of the challenge resides right here.
Right.
Between my ears.
Which is what we're going to be going through in a couple of hours. It always lines up with, even though we started working on the one for tonight weeks ago, all of them kind of work together, but this is like the follow-up from last week. And it's really is that a lot of our enemy is right here.
Right.
At least mine are anyway. They all reside really, really close. Like Spurgeon said, they're not 5 miles away. They might actually be in your brain. Thank you, yhvh.
We appreciate that, yhvh. She's got up here for our podcast listeners, yhvh put in the comments, wonderful. Yah is. Thank you, ladies, blessings to all. Shabbat shalom. And thank you, yhvh. We really appreciate that and appreciate your support. And with that, I guess we're going to go ahead and say goodbye, because you got to come back on with your lovely husband in just a couple of hours here. So
2 hours.
Yep. Less than 2 hours at this point. So with that, thank you again, Lee, for joining me. Thank you, audience, for being here. For all that will watch in the future, we thank you, and we hope that this is a blessing to you. And may Yahuah himself bless you and keep you. May he lift his countenance upon you and give you peace. Bye-bye.
Bye. Shalom.
Shalom.
Their journey began in Yasharel, but they were scattered across the face of the earth, each one with its own beats, and each one with its own rhythm. As the dry bones are being revived, the beat begins again at the heart of the tribe.